man in Chicago came out about 15 years ago, and 5 years ago took a job in a very risky prison position, and whose life was at stake. So we changed the name and said we changed the name. But I think that mainstream media are going to have to deal with this, because normally we would not. We would never do that kind of thing, right? But this is where people's lives have changed. Either they're either at risk safety-wise, or they're in careers, or they really do want to live in the gender now they're representing, and they don't want to be known as trans. So this is a complex dilemma that's going to face the mainstream media.
There was a piece on the front page of the New York Times, Phyllis Fry, first, to my knowledge, the first openly elected judge. Second, yes, debated.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was prominent. And in that piece, I mean, I think for the most part it was an excellent piece, but it took me by surprise that they went back and forth talking about her early life with her birth name, using male pronouns. And I think it kind of relates to the style guide bit as well. It's like our style guide would dictate if it's ultimately necessary, like if they're a public figure, then we use the birth name once so that you know who the person is, but then you never see it again. But it's always the pronouns of the gender that they know themselves to be at the time of writing. And yet there are more and more pieces where you see pronouns going back and forth, talking about history. How do you panelists feel about this?
I'm for when you use it one time, preference in the beginning, just like an acronym, and never refer to it again. Right? You can talk about the past without bringing up those specifics. This same goes back to the same thing. You can show somebody's transition at a different angle than showing the pictures. So if I'm going to do a transition piece on, let's say, Janet, and I know she's about her name and she's already told me in pictures, then maybe I go back to places she worked at or frequented in the male gender, and show, you can say we used to work here, and you show a shot of, the factory or whatever it is, right, without referencing a picture. So you get a sense of the history that they came from and that they're moving forward from, without showing a picture of this was Janet in a, let's say you're a security guard in a security guard uniform standing in front of the plant. Do you see what I'm saying? There's a different way to do it, but it's the same thing with that, because you're confusing the reader. You're confusing Joe in Arkansas or Alabama or Missouri, right? Well, see, they keep using male, female, so make up their mind. What are they doing? That's what they're reading. That's how they're reading it, right? Because now you're confusing them because they're not in the know. So you use it one time, leave it alone.
Or as a child, like if you were telling a story of an adult, would you ever have to go back to the pronoun that they were given at birth to tell their story?
I don't. Whenever I tell childhood stories, I don't have a lot of experience with that, in the media and stuff. But whenever I'm telling a story to my friend about something I did when I was a kid, because I was kind of a goofball, but I just substitute my name for my birth name and my pronouns for the pronouns that I used as a child, and they all understand, and they understand that this is me when I was 5, and I hadn't transitioned yet, but I'm still me, and so they get the connection.
Because would you say that is the gender that you always were?
Yeah.
You just weren't using the pronouns to match your...
I just hadn't caught up with it yet.
That's a good way to frame it.
And I think it's such an opportunity as a writer to try and find an artful way to describe complexity. You can have tremendous impact, and we've done these in the past. And to use the most prominent example that we're reading about all the time, the difference between when he won a gold medal, blah blah blah, or when she was competing in male sports. You've just done a tremendous amount there, and there are ways when she was living as male that says. It's very clear to the reader what they're saying, but you've affirmed...
Without confusing.
And I think it's not that it's never complicated, but I think there's almost always a way to reflect that complexity in a more sophisticated way than I think we always take the opportunity to.
So in the last few minutes that we have, what I'd like is each panelist just to give some closing remarks. And if you're struggling to think of what to say, I would say if you could see any story of a transgender person in the media, what story would you want to see being told?
Starting with me?
I'll start with you. I'm looking at you, Jill. So
yes. Okay. Yeah, I think the stories that I'd love to see more of, it's the stories that we're trying to put out right now, and we're trying to do is just all of these transgender, non-conforming young people who are transforming their communities, who are transforming the way that people view gender, and really questioning like the way that we consider gender in society. And I think that at the forefront of many movements too, particularly like trans people, of the trans youth of color, who are just leading so many movements on the ground right now, and really seeing those stories at the forefront when we're talking about trans coverage.
The stories that I want to see more stories of transgender people being humanized. Because you see so many stories of, you know, the horrible things happening and all of that stuff. I want to see stories about transgender people doing their everyday life and the wonderful things that people accomplish every day. The wonderful, beautiful things. And that's part of the reason why I like the Truth Campaign so much, is because it gives people like me an outline on how to do it. So if you don't know how to do it, you can share your story about who you are and what you want to accomplish without having to mess up. And I want to see more stories that show people that we have hobbies and we have dogs and go on walks and are just like you. Exactly, because we're people. Yes, it's a new change. Happened somewhere around August.
You didn't get the memo.
I'm sorry. I'll forward the email to you.
Okay, yeah. With the gay agenda too, I would have
Yes,
that.
yes.
See what I go through. I want to see, piggybacking on, we're basically going to all agree on this. I want to go see everything change from all the sad and victimization to actually showing how that we care, how that we support our community, the jobs that we go out and do, because there's a lot of us that are out there in jobs that you wouldn't even have any idea that we're doing. That we're out there supporting not just our community, but this is community too. We're out dealing with them and treating them just like everybody else. But seeing the side of us that laugh, seeing the side of us that cry, seeing the side of us that give, that makes our community even more prevalent, even more giving, and even more receptive in our country. Versus everything being negative, everything being down. We're constantly on aid. We're doing this. We're doing that. There's a lot more that we do than just the negative, and that would be the biggest sum that could ever bring us up. Is to show how positive that we really are.
I like to see more family stories, more transparenting. And the context is I'm a mom. I have a 9-year-old daughter. I have 2 twin boys and 1 with mild autism. My dad was bipolar and I'm trans. So I joke in class when I teach, like, oh, the DSM-4 is 5 is our Bible, right? You know, we're all in there. Like, here it is. But we started an altar in my IVF babies. So that's why I don't have a house in the Oakland Hills in San Angelo, because I have $50,000 in creating our family. So we see the narrative that Jenny Bolin, middle-aged, transitioning with high school kids and all that, and now it's about me. But you don't see a lot of stories. You see a few F&M stories about the families and parenting and pregnancy, but I think it's important to show the family dynamic, that we are capable of creating our own families, that's just, the modern family. I think it also will help to take away some of the horribly discrimination issues that we see in family court, where somebody is transitioning and they're no longer a fit parent and the kids are being taken away, and I'm a child of divorce in the 60s, so I know what that's like. So more just a family that, we look like a lesbian family, I'm trans, we created our family by choice, we had a dog who died, we have a cat, we have a fish tank, I have leaves to sweep up in the backyard, there's no lesbians swinging off the chandelier, topless, like, we're a little old for that.
The snake.
No, we have a snake in the backyard too, I have a garter snake, RuPaul. It just came to me one day. So Alicia calls it Sammy, I call it RuPaul, but no shade there. It's just, but does you hear what I'm saying? It's take the exotic out, the sensational or the tragedy. If a good day for me is making it through the day intact, and my family is all intact, and the kids are tucked in bed, and there was no drama at work or with my friends or my clients or my community. That's a good day. Doesn't sound like, it's just a day in America. So I think some stories like that, you know, would be good.
Okay. Well, we've actually reached the end on the timing of the panel. So thank you very much.